As long as I'm careful, I have a good feeling about...
Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
This is Half-Sword, a physics-based concussion simulator that's in early access on Steam. Today, I've set out to do the only logical thing and beat the sword fighting game without using swords. In fact, I can't use any weapons at all and have to beat every class fighter with my bare hands. This isn't much of an issue at first, but the top tiers where every opponent is covered head to toe in armor, it becomes a bit... challenging. And hey, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe so I know you want more content like this. No more talk, let's begin. First off is the Lowly Peasant. It'll be the easiest class to fight because they don't spawn with weapons anyway, making it a fairly even fight. Even still, it took me a few tries to not get destroyed. Eventually, I found a great tactic, sprinting at my opponent while swinging wildly and knocking them out with a quick 1-2 to the head. Moving on to the next class, I now have shoes and a hoe. But as per the rules, I immediately have to drop it once the fight starts. Unfortunately, my opponent doesn't know the rules of chivalry and decided to keep his weapon and hack my leg off. As expected, this was quite the difficulty jump from the previous level. The next fight went even worse somehow, with my dude recreating the end of Death Note. Luckily, my next challenger had a spear, which was way easier to dodge, so I was able to close the gap and slam him against the fence for my next victory. The only difference with the next tier of opponent is that the weapons go from farm tools to actual swords. This means I have to be extra careful while rushing them, or I'll end up like this. Yeah, not my proudest moment, but it didn't take long to find a weaker opponent and instantly take them out. 3 done just like that. Maybe this won't be that bad. But now comes the first big difficulty spike. My opponents can now have helmets and shields, which makes them exponentially harder to kill. On the bright side, I can also start with a helmet, which means I can take a few more hits to the head before bleeding out anyway. Don't worry, bleeding out is the least of my problems. After some more attempts, I finally got someone on the ground and started beating him. But the previously mentioned helmets meant this took way longer than it had in the past before he gave up. Little did I know, this was nothing compared to the last 4 classes. Each had more armor than the last and better weapons to boot. But I don't have to worry about that right now, so I start fighting against the next enemy in line. And the next. And the next. You know what? I think you get the point. Their advanced armor and weapons made it much harder than I anticipated to take them out. I eventually got the upper hand in a long fight and won a match, but then realized I had steel gauntlets on, which felt unfair, so I didn't count the victory. But this win, as illegitimate as it was, gave me the confidence to keep going. I also discovered that you can go into first person, which is great. I've always wanted to experience being beheaded in first person. It took a while, but I finally got a legit victory and could move on. Just 3 more to go. Also, from this point on, you are always wearing metal gauntlets, so I couldn't really avoid using them. It almost makes up for how tough these guys are. Surprisingly, this level took way less time than the previous one, and I was able to beat it in one of my first attempts. However, I wasn't expecting such a major shift in gameplay during the last 2 levels. It went from a brutal smack and stab situation to an awkward bear hug where both of us would grapple to the floor repeatedly. Don't get me wrong, I still lost, but it took me by surprise, that's for sure. But once again, luck seemed to be on my side and I got a clean headshot in the second round and took the victory. This surprised me and I thought it might have been a bug with the physics engine, so I did the fight again, but still won, so I guess I'm just built different. Don't know why the second highest class is the second easiest to beat, but hey, I'll take it. Now all that was left was the full-on knights. This one tier took me over twice the amount of time for every other class combined. Their full body armor made my punches, even with the iron gauntlets, do essentially no damage. They kept shoving me to the ground and would stun lock me by hitting my head over and over again. Even though I wasn't necessarily taking damage, I had to give up anyway because I couldn't stand and fight, and I kept getting really close too. In this run, I managed to get them up against the fence and was even able to recover from falling down. I then landed a major blow and he fell down, but my punches weren't enough to keep him there. Things quickly went from bad to worse as he cut off my arm and tripped me. By some miracle, I got back up, but he immediately pushed me back down. I tried to get up again, but he grabbed my foot and I had to surrender. Nothing seemed to work. I even tried grabbing my opponents and swinging them against the railing, but they were always too heavy and I ended up falling over instead. You can guess how the rest of the fight went. But then I had another fight. I was about 10 minutes in and it was a constant back and forth with one of us falling to the ground, getting beat on, getting up, knocking the other down, and repeating the process. I was getting tired of it until I landed the perfect blow, dropping him on the fence, and I finally lost again. What? You think I actually won the fight against this guy? You and your silly belief in me. In reality, I managed to win in the most ironic and anticlimactic way possible, sprinting at the enemy and wildly swinging my fist. But again, to prove this isn't a complete fluke, I did it again and oh, that looked like it hurt. Well, I've put this guy through enough, and a fluke is good enough for me. Again, if you like this video, make sure to subscribe and let me know your crazy half-sword moments in the comments. That's it for now. See y'all later.